If you want to lead us in the pledge, lead us on, I think that.
Yeah.
Join me in pledging our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, will we sing and start saying the banner and God bless and everything? Progress will be all seen.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to thank Richard Wilkerson for creating President-elect Steve Van Dorn, Ricky for technology, Andrew Evans scouting for. You guys are up for an announcement after. All right, so we're gonna go offline. Do we have any lead chairs? I saw him, Don Lewis, please.
Ready for Don Lewis? All right.
Hello, fellow Rotarians. Today's song is This Little Light of Mine. And I want you to sing it fine like I know you can. Let's go. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Today, it's okay with lights, but it's about knowledge. Okay. So corporations use their own local media, not all the time. There you go. Now, how about it? Okay. So, can you go back?
Yeah.
Okay, the first one. Yeah, no. Amazon. So the Amazon, you see the logo, the way they designed it.
Hang on. I need to get out of the. No, it's on. There we go. There you go. You got it.
So what can you tell the message behind that logo? Is from A to Z. So as you know, Amazon started as a book seller online. So from the dictionary from A to Z, but then he thought of more than just selling books. So he's now selling everything from A to Z. So next logo.
This one probably is easy. Anybody knows what this is? Okay?
Captain Robin.
Yeah, there you are. 31 flavors.
31 flavors, right?
There you go. Next one. Cisco. Why is the logo this way?
Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes, Cisco was created, established in San Francisco. And they chose the golden gate bridge just to be the symbol.
So Julia, you said lowercase.
Yeah.
Lowercase, everything drove everybody nuts. They started the San Francisco and it was lowercase. So they stylized it and made it uppercase.
Okay, so artistic treatments along with the idea. Okay, next one. FedEx. What's the rationale behind the choosing this logo? Yeah, so the arrow is taking something from one place to the other, and they do it very well. Last thing,
Hey, Julia, can you go back to that one?
the last one.
Can you go back to that one, Ricky?
FedEx,
Yancy never found the arrow. Could you show us the arrow?
Where's the arrow?
Right there.
From the E to the F is in between, from the E to the F, right here.
okay, the chips. What's the message here? Yeah, right? The parents and the kid. The last but important, our Rotary logo. It evolves from the very beginning to what you have now. You look at Steve, he's all over his shirt. He really believes in it. So the idea is, obviously, I'm telling you something that everybody already knows, right? We're telling you for so many years. But for the new members, is the wheel, of course. The wheel by nature wants to move. It doesn't want to stay stationary. So it is just about all these are members, people, they want to make the wheel go, do something. The spokes, there's 6 of them. I understand the way that I read it. The 4 represent the 4-way test. And the 2 is to do good and have fun. That is important. There's something I didn't notice before, but when I read it, I found out that there's this little thing here on the center is the key. Why is that?
It's the driver.
Exactly.
Without a key, it's the item.
That's right. Because without that key, the wheel could spin. Now with that, it's anchored and it goes. It's an engine. It would be moving forward. It is a horse. It's still not spinning. So we choose this logo to inspire, to remind all of us our dedication to what we want to do. So that's why we do all the projects like Kathy and Gary's project in water wash. And we have the poker game recently, and then we're going to have the annual run in November. So these are the things that we engage all our members to do something for the good of the people that need it. So that's why we are the Rotary Club of Pleasanton.
World.
All right, and we got Father's Day coming up, and where would we be fathers if it wasn't for mother? If the fathers would have never been born. So I forgot to mention my mother on Mother's Day, she gave me my green thumb, so just a second.
All right.
I brought a box of flowers. She was a Bavarian farm girl and moved to the city. So here we go.
Wow, those are fortunate.
What, Mike? Yeah, after.
after the meeting. If you leave early, you don't get any artichokes. I'm trying to keep everybody here longer. All right, so gotta have fun, do good. And that sunshine song, we need the sun and the rain for growing the plants, and it's been a good year. All right, thank you, Julio. Visiting Rotarians, we have one that needs no introduction. Come on, hurry up. Any other visiting Rotarians?
Yeah, Bob, yes, right here. Oh, you're doing it, Bob.
From the Rotary Club of Dublin, in the classification of Bob Prepnon.
Hi, Bob. When are you going on the next angel flight? Gonna deliver liver, kidney? Awesome. What are you delivering?
Going to Japanese, taking off right after the meeting. Go down to Montana.
He's gonna deliver some parts vitally needed for somebody. So thank you, Bob, for doing that. All right, guests of Rotarians.
President Gary, fellow Rotarians and guests, it's my pleasure to introduce to you a friend of mine I've known for about 20 years. His name is Mark Francis, and kind of an interesting category. He's an entrepreneur, international pursuits. Please welcome Mark Francis.
And treat him good. His middle name is Saint. Lance. Okay. Any more visiting Rotarians and guests? That's it. Okay, our Zoomer. We've got Anshu.
You're on Zoom.
Jake. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Eric, good to see you. We missed you a couple of meetings.
Hello, everyone.
Julie.
Hey there. I've actually come down with, I went out, did an East Coast trip, and I came back with COVID. So, but I'm okay now, but that's why I'm not there with you.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. All right. Thank you all for joining us. All right, announcements. Steve Van Dorn, are you ready?
I'm ready.
And thank all the other people that came bearing gifts. I really appreciate it. And Pete McDonald, another thanks, that beautiful marble. That's awesome. It's sitting right at our kitchen.
Before Steve goes, I have a,
He's got something.
got an RI video to cue him up, so.
All right.
Give me 1 second, and we'll have it.
We've been here before, fighting the problems that fight back. But we can shift the status quo, because we see opportunities where others see obstacles. We're change makers and problem solvers, uniting over 1 million minds to address complex issues facing communities around the world, including yours. With passion and purpose, we've led the efforts to put an end to polio. Now eradication isn't just possible, it's plausible. Every day we're investing in a new generation of leaders so we can continue to provide access to clean water, tackle global health concerns, support education, and build the foundations of peace across borders. We're working together as partners and professionals while making friendships that last a lifetime. We're Rotary, and there's no limit to what we can do.
Thanks, Ricky. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I just want to first thank the club for supporting my visit to Melbourne, Australia. I just returned from the International Convention. It was amazing. How many here have been to an international convention? So I'm pumped up, to say the least. I also got a new shirt, as you can see. Gary doesn't like the colors, but I don't really care what Gary thinks. Anyway, oh, okay, those, I have those on right now, though, so, okay. I'll give those to you later. Yeah, right. So anyway, I was able to pick up a few items while I was there, not only some great ideas, we met some wonderful people. We have a great reputation in the district as well as many clubs throughout the world. So, and a lot of that has to do with the Harringtons. I met some of the folks that they work with on our wash projects. There was over 14,000 Rotarians registered. I'm not sure how many showed up, but we met in the Rod Laver Arena, which was where the Australian Open is played. Many of you follow tennis. So it was phenomenal. The weather was great. And that's all I'll talk about that. But I brought back some very important things for you, Gary. The first item is a pair of club runner socks. These are really, everyone wanted a pair of those. And I just want you to know, I spent a lot of money on this stuff. That was given to me for free. And here's another item, some chocolate shells that were given to all the attendees. I got that for free as well. So, yeah, and then this is some lotion for when you get sore after picking all the artichokes. Placenta cream. It's some good stuff. Yeah. And here's some, biscuits for you that I also got for free at the convention. And most importantly, I was going to get you a merino wool sweater, but you know how much those cost? Like $500. So I got you some real New Zealand wool. There you go, right off a sheep. Make your own.
He's so bad, boy.
You're welcome. I'm done. So thank you.
I think he got those. This is what they were serving on the plane when he was in flight. All right. He's gonna announce something, and I hooked up with Bill Wheeler, Black Ties, got me on a limousine at 4 o'clock the same day, so I'm going to Hawaii on a private jet, so you guys have fun.
Well, we'll sabotage the limo. Okay, so Tuesday, the 27th of this month, we are going to celebrate Gary's demotion. And Steve's promotion, so it'll be. So we have a little demotion meeting committee that's been planning a really special roast for President Gary. So we hope everybody can attend that, and if you have not signed up yet, please see Kathy Alameda in the back. It will be at Sidetrack, 5 o'clock on Tuesday, the 27th.
Thank you. Bill Bird.
Yes, as some of you know, I just got back from a almost 3-week trip in Eastern Europe. It was a land tour, so I traveled by bus with another 30 folks. Along the way, we tried to specialize in local food, and it turned out that almost every meal we had a sausage. So I thought you just had to have that sausage. And I'm one that enjoys the Scotch for dinner. And I could find Scotch in many bars, but any other place was difficult. But I did drink a lot of this plum stuff. Does things up as a good Scotch. But then there was one disappointing gift that I brought for you. Like Titus Berry. And this kind of has a message. When I travel on land from city to city, I always like to make up a Rotary. Every time I check into a different hotel, I check at the desk to find out when the local Rotary met. You'll be interested in doing it every single time they knew. Every single time they told me some of the time when I was there. So I wasn't able to make up any Rotaries on the way, but enjoy it. And I had such a good time. I'd like to make a contribution to $1 to the local clubs.
Thank you very much. Sweetma Palika. And then whatever this one. Cease. All right, Andrew.
So as many of you know, I'm the chair for the Spirit Run this year. It's happening October 22nd. Please put it in your calendars. And I look forward to seeing all your bright, shining faces early in the morning. If we happen, me or Kathy missed you on the volunteering aspects and kind of getting down the jobs, we're going through that right now. Finding the volunteers and making sure that you guys have committed to that day. If we missed you, please come find us. We'd love to get you down on our list for just about anything and everything that you could think of to do that morning. Secondly, for all the heads, the chairs of the subcommittees for the Spirit Run, we are having our first meeting Tuesday night, 7 o'clock on Zoom. It'll be our first one, and then we'll see, kind of play it by ear. And I plan on having those monthly here. So I just want to make that last announcement.
Thank you very much. All right. Michael Halsteman and Bob Aaron. And I learned last week, you gotta have over $1 million to invest with Bob, so. That leaves me out.
So some of you may know what this is, some of you may not know what this is. This is the Rotary Cup. So the highest finishing Rotarian gets this cup to hang on to for a year. And I was the individual that was highest finisher last year. So I had it prominently displayed in my conference room. I had this on one side, and then I had another trophy on another side. So kind of my trophy room. So this year, I have to give this up to Bob Brown, since he was the highest finishing Rotarian.
Have to do it again.
Yeah. Again, I understand that when he picked it up, there was a little problem that my name was actually on as the highest finisher, and Jeremy had to peel it off and put I think Jeremy just assumes that I'm going to be the highest finisher every year. So here you go, Bobby.
Yeah, all right.
And congratulations.
Thank you for those of you, and thank you very much, everybody, for those of you who came out and participated either through donations or came to stop by the event or played. This was our biggest event yet. We had 90 players. We had over 120 people that actually kind of came and showed up. And you know, I know it pains Mike to give this away, but you know, if you follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, I'll be around town with this, posting photos. So you know, comment appropriately, except for Joe Crosland. I blocked you as a friend. No, Bill Evans was in charge of the tournament this year. So and as you guys all know, or maybe most of you know, if you got the email, my wife came in third. So everybody has a bunch of conspiracy theories around how that happened, but it's just a lesson. If my wife can come in third, then anybody can play poker. And Mike, and I'm specifically meaning Mike. No, literally, because she learned like a month ago. So it wasn't like she's played for a long time.
She told us at the front desk that she was going to be the first one out. She'd be right.
No, right? I know she was shocked. But anyway, thank you very much. I will proudly hold this trophy in my custody for a year, and next year I look forward to another great tournament. Oh, by the way, we raised over $20,000, so best year ever.
Right here. Ricky.
Excuse me, I think we should all thank Bill Evans for chairing the event.
Thank you, Bill.
Get no love. Anyway, could we have Oliver Shep come up? Could we have Dave Clausen come up? And could we have, who am I thinking that Greg Kirk, please also. And if you're a sponsor, come up with them. I don't think Bob's not here, and I don't think Deanna's here. I thought they were going to be, but come on up. You need to like that. Thank you. All right. And Mark is Oliver's sponsor. So we'll start with Mark and Oliver. So it's my pleasure as the new member coordinator to introduce these gentlemen who just joined our club. And I'm going to start with Oliver. I think if I can find him first. Always the last one, of course. All right. So Oliver, we want to welcome you as a new member. We're going to ask you to tell us a few things about yourself. You remember those 5 questions? Yeah. You want to just start off?
Yeah, sure. There you go. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Fellow Rotarian. Right. First of all, Mark, thank you so much for the introduction and for inviting me 6 weeks ago or so. Really appreciate it. And Gary, I know you for a couple of years too, so thank you for all that. I live in Walnut Creek with my wife. We're married 32 years. We have a grown son. And hobbies is next, right? Hobbies?
Your
Vocation, yeah. So I work for AT&T. Yeah, there you go. AT&T Business Solutions the last 5 years out of San Ramon, but I kind of handle all of Northern California. And then my hobbies, I like anything outdoors. I'm a pretty active person. Anything that you can do outside is fun. And to help, is it help like with maybe a water project or fundraising, or is it help like what I do for work to help people?
What area do you want to serve
Okay.
the club in?
Yeah, so I have to give that probably a little bit more thought because I maybe misunderstood the serving part. But like the water project, I mean, that sounded amazing. So
It's called
that-
Wash.
Wash, yes. I mean, that would be amazing, I think, because you can travel there and do things. So, but I'll
You
get
can be
that to
involved
you.
in that committee and not travel. also.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that
Okay, so
we'll
it's
kind of
walk.
pencil that in, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Okay. And we want to give Oliver, here you go. Here's your certificate of membership. There's a 4-way test in there, and here's your badge, your new Rotary badge. And all of these gentlemen, I just ordered some new shirts, so I don't know if I have their size, but they're all getting a polo. No, this is a lady's shirt, so we know, that's why I have them on order. But you're all gonna get a shirt, a polo shirt, and the next one, so if you guys wanna sit down, just so there's more room up here, that'd be great. And I'm gonna go with Greg on my right here, on your left, and Greg, same thing, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Greg Kirk. I'm single and I have 3 wonderful children that live in New York and Oakland and Emeryville. I currently work for Applied Materials, semiconductor capital equipment company, but actually for the last 7 years, I've been working to create a biotech spinout for them. So I've been doing a little bit different than semi. Hobbies, I like to cycle. I like to golf with my son and my brothers and friends. I like to hike. My interest in volunteer work. I'd like to help with kids' scholarships. So I think that's on the list.
Anything else?
Okay. What was the last
What
question?
one, if you want to share something fun here?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't think of it. It's probably TMI. I have 1 kidney. And I found that out when I was about 30 years old. I think I was born that way.
That's very interesting. All right, well, Greg, we want to welcome you. Here's your certificate. Name badge. Here you go, and we'll get you a shirt. Give Greg a round of applause, please. And last, but certainly not least, is Dave Clausen. You got the mic next.
Oh, thank you. There's a number of people in here that are familiar with me. I think most of you have asked me to join the Rotary once or twice in the last, 40 years I've been here. Anyway, thank you all for being tenacious and making sure I get here, because this is really what I like to do. Let's see, what do we talk about first?
Your family.
Oh, my family. I have a wonderful wife, Debbie. She works for Joe Callahan. If you're familiar with him, he's the one that built Posse on the business park. She's endeared him for 42 years, so I'm her nighttime husband. He's her daytime husband. He gets more time with it though. That's a little, I think it's unfair, but I get the perks. Number 2, what do we got? Look at my hand. Location. I have been in technology since 1974, serving various positions and reinventing my life over time. Right now, I recently restarted my career again, and it's after retiring 1.5 years ago, I realized I had too much time on my hand and I was getting kind of bored sitting at home waiting for my wife to come home. So I started up a business consulting company, which I had many years before here on Main Street. And it does business intelligence, software development. So I create data warehouses, and then I use report tools to give people dashboard type style data on how their business is operating, how their competition is operating. Most recently, my most recent customer was a military aircraft parts company out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I also did that here when I actually worked for Aero Precision Industries over on Lindbergh in Littleport. Okay, here we go. Hobbies. I absolutely love outdoors, just like this gentleman.
I have an ATV. We have a place up in the mountains off of Bearwood Reservoir. We put our fifth wheel there in May and pull it out in October. Spend a lot of time up there every single weekend. We'll take a couple weekends off for the Rotary for sure. ATV, gardening is a great passion of mine. I've been a gardener since I was almost 16 years old. My first job was at Sears and Antioch in the garden shop. Okay, I think it's more than something funny. Oh, this is funny. Oh, wait, what is one?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, something funny. Well, about 15 years ago, I went to a gala for the Boy Scouts of America at that fancy hotel on top of the hill in San Francisco. And I was sitting at the table with the Hymans, and it was time to before we sat down, we're out in the lobby bidding on things and stuff like that. Then it came time to go in. And as we're walking through this double door, about 400 of us, I accidentally stepped on somebody's train dress. And she fell over, and that was Roberta Gonzalez, by the way. So, by the way, we're very good friends, very good friends. She doesn't hold it against me.
Honestly, what area of service do you want to get involved?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is the most important thing. I get happiness out of serving people and giving back to people. I want to be on, if you allow me to, I would like to be on the scholarship committee. I was involved in the scholarship committee in another life for other people, and I enjoyed knowing I was helping kids get to the next level in their life. The second thing is I think the wheelchair program. I know that Barrington needed it, so I would like to do that. I've been wanting to do it for years. So that's it. Thank you. And that was not here.
Dave, wait a second. This is for you. Dave, there's your name badge and here, thank you. We welcome you. So glad to have you. Give them a round of applause for. Really good, very good. So we have one more member that is yet to be introduced. It's also sponsored by Mark Tanis. He works with him, Gary Ingram, excuse me. And when we bring him in the next meeting, I would hope that will be 20 new members under Gary's year as president. So give yourselves a round of applause. Fantastic. I don't think I've ever seen so many members added in 1 year. And one really quick announcement since I have the microphone and I'll get out of here. Goodness Village, hopefully you all know what that is. They help house the unhoused over in Livermore, and they're having an event on Saturday the 24th of this month, and they're looking for volunteers. They've already got all the tickets sold, but we need people to help serve and do different things. I'm volunteering. If you would be interested in that, let me know and I'll hook you up for how you can also volunteer and be a part of that event. Thank you very much, President Gary. Here's your mic.
Thank you. And that truly is dedication and compliments, and thank you to all of you that have done that in growing the club. It's amazing. Bill, come on up. You have a wonderful guest. And the one thing I gotta say about our guest, Jerry, we should have really had your wife here. He has the greatest wife. I've always seen him around town. She's such a sweetheart, and you're a blessed man. So thank you.
Well, good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Many of you know him. He is a businessman and a retired member of the U.S. House of Representatives, where he served from 2007 to 2023. On a personal note, before he was involved with the House of Representatives, he was friends with him, and his wife Mary were friends with my parents. And they used to hang out together and have dinners. And when my father passed away in 2012, Jerry had taken the flag from the U.S. Capitol, our U.S. Capitol, on February 29th of 2012. And he took that flag and he kept it and he gave it to my mother. And he wrote into the congressional record a whole story about my dad and his life. And I won't go into it right now, but it was really touching that he did that. And then he presented that to our family. It's framed, it's in my office right now. If anybody ever comes to my office, you could see it. So without any further ado, Jerry McNerney.
Thanks, Bill. Just a little while ago, I was asking Bill, why would anyone want to be president of the Pleasanton Rotary Club? But look at all this cool stuff. And this guy's the reason, right? Anyway, thank you for inviting me today. I'll give you a little bit about my background and then talk about the future a little bit. I'm the only mathematician in Congress, or was the only mathematician. Now, there was one before me in the 1950s. And if anyone could guess where that person was from, I'll give you a sausage. If you don't mind, Gary. He was from Fresno, California. So what does that tell you? That the Central Valley is a hotbed for mathematicians in Congress.
A lot of smart people from Fresno.
Hey, it's good people out there. That's right. At least one. So anyway, I spent 25 years developing wind energy technology. A lot of fun, a lot of ups and downs. Businesses do. But in 2004, my son Michael was in the service, and he called me and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm in the service. I got my absentee ballot in the mail. No one's running against the incumbent. Hey, Dad, I'm serving our country. What are you doing with yourself?" So going from engineering, you have to laugh. I mean, goodness gracious, running for Congress. So at any rate, he called me the next week and said, "Dad, you got to pull your papers this time." So I did it, and I got my ass kicked in 2004. But then you learn how to do things, and in 2006 it was more favorable for my party, and I won. I represented Pleasanton, didn't get Livermore, but I got Dublin, San Ramon, Danville, Morgan Hill, and then the Stockton Tracy area. So that was good. But then in 2011, the new census came out. They changed the boundaries. It looked like I would either have Pleasanton and run against an incumbent in my own party, senior incumbent, or I would move out to the valley. So the party kind of convinced me to move out to the valley, which I did. In 2021, the new census came out, and by gosh, it took all of the Bay Area away from me, and put me back in the frontline district. Said, no, I've done enough of that. So I retired after 16 years in Congress. So it's now, being in Congress is interesting. You just have so many people coming to you asking for things and telling you their stories. It's like, if you like to learn things, it's great, because you got people coming in from California, you got people coming in from all over the country and all the world, really. And they have 15 minutes of your time because you got a whole lot of people stacked up. And so you just sit and try and focus on what every one of these groups or individuals is telling you, and you just learn a tremendous amount. So tremendous learning experience. I focused on energy policy. That was my background. I spent 25 years developing wind energy technology. Loved it. Water, because water is so important in California, and that fight is going to go on and on and on. I can tell you more about it if you want, but it's boring. And then technology was another issue I focused on. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And the veterans issue. I did manage to get a veterans hospital built in San Joaquin County. That's one of my big achievements in Congress. Serving veterans is something my son told me I would be the most proud of when I left Congress, and by gosh, he's right. Having done that was a big achievement. I'm really proud of that. So anyway, having served, I was also chairman of the Artificial Intelligence Caucus in Congress. Now, I want to talk a little bit about AI. AI is big news. You hear about it all the time. You have people like even Elon Musk making a big scene about, geez, we ought to put a moratorium on AI. And you have all this big stuff happening. But really, AI started out as pretty dumb. It really was. It was just following steps and expert advice and that kind of stuff. Well, recently, what's happened is the immense computing power that they have now, plus all the immense amount of data that's out there that can be used. Now, big companies like Microsoft and Google just have tremendous resources to access both the computer power they need and the data that they need. So they're getting their hands on all kinds of data from the internet, from medical histories, from police records, from just about any place you can imagine. They're getting this data, and the data goes into these, what they call these large language models, or LLMs. Now, LLMs are so big. The newest ones have like 10 to the 24 connections. So that's a lot of damn connections, 10 to the 24. So with that much information, what they do, what these large language models do is you'll give it a question and it'll sort through the data and pick out a number of items for the next word in the what they're going to spit out to you. And then they do a probability model on those words and decide which one of those words is going to be the best fit. So every single word that comes out of those large language models is just a string, a sort of a mindless string that comes from an immense amount of data, and then a probability model on all the words they're candidates for the next word. So it's really mindless. I mean, people will tell you, geez, this thing's talking to me. You know, it wants to ask me out for a date, or, you know, it wants to help me cheat, you know, and make $1 million by cheating. So all that stuff is just mindless following really set rules. And it may seem, if you're, you know, if you're a person, you're trying to talk to one of these GPT chat or one of those guys, it seems like you're actually talking to a human, because they're using an immense amount of data and some pretty good models, and they've got 10 to the 24, 10 to the 26 connections. Now, some people are saying that what's happening with AI is unexpected. They're getting results that are scary and unpredictable. They're not, they can't explain it. But what's really happening is that if you use the right kind of metric, if you use the right way to judge how much is going into that model, how many connections it has, the progression is actually a linear, predictable projection. Of course, that's according to Stanford studies. So I don't think there's the fear with AI. It isn't that it's going to become some big monster that understands people and has a mind of its own. No, the big threat with AI, in my opinion, is that it will displace people. I mean, they'll get so good at doing these jobs that they'll displace lawyers, for God's sake. Can you imagine displacing lawyers?
Oh my gosh.
Well, I guess friendly lawyers. They can replace programmers. You know, when they start getting into the white collar, then that's when people start getting upset. So that's the way I see AI is, and I think there's ways to control it. Some people say, well, geez, like Ed Musk, say, hey, let's put a moratorium so everybody can stop working on AI for the next 6 months. Of course, when everybody does that, Ed Musk is going to go out and do development for the next 6 months and get ahead of everybody. So, I mean, I don't think you can trust that that's a good way to do it. Government regulation, no. You know, the United States doesn't even have a privacy law yet. California has a privacy law, but the United States doesn't have a privacy law. And the reason is because it's so controversial. There's so much infighting between the parties, and not only between the Republicans and the Democrats, but within the Democratic Party, there's fights, and within the Republican, I mean, it's just impossible to get that done. You know, being from California has a pretty good privacy law. It's not the perfect, it's not the best, but it has a pretty good privacy law. And I was on the committee that was developing a privacy law for the country. And we put it out there, and then Nancy Pelosi said, well, geez, this is going to have to preempt California law, isn't it, Jerry? And I said, well, yeah, maybe, but it has good things about it. It has better things than the California, it has worse things than the California law. She says, well, I can't let that happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in the House. We're not going to bring it. So because of that political reason, she didn't want to bring a law that would preempt California law. Now, you think, okay, now Nancy's not really speaker anymore, but you know, the new speaker is also from California. So I don't see how even privacy, now privacy is the very first step in anything we can do to control AI. So I don't think regulation is going to happen. What I'm sort of advocating for is to develop an AI trade association that has, it's not a professional model like the engineering associations or the mathematical associations, but association of businesses, big and small, to develop standards for data. So the data, you know what's in the data, you know it's biased, you know it's you know, it's gonna do this to that person or so on. So that the algorithms are understood, so people, when they use AI, they know what they're doing and they know what they're getting. There needs to be a way to earmark, to watermark AI, so that when something is produced, with an AI, tool, that it's identifiable as having been produced by a machine as opposed to a person. There's a few things like that. What Europe is doing or trying to do, they're trying to regulate AI is a risk-based model, so that the most risky things that AI can do will have the highest level of regulation. So something like facial recognition or use in security or use in military, those are the ones at the highest risk, and they'll have the highest level of regulation. And as you go down to like creating term papers, it's not too risky. It's kind of immoral maybe if you're a student, and it's a pain if you're a teacher. But I mean, so it's a risk-based model. That's something that we might look at. But I don't think regulation is the way to do it. Establishing sort of a private, privately run organization to create standards and to enforce those standards, in my opinion, is the best thing we can do to control AI. Now, the other kind of I want to talk about is fusion. And you know, we're pretty close to Livermore here at Pleasanton. Livermore's a nice town, not quite as nice as Pleasanton, right? It's a nice town. Don't anyone quote me that it's not a nice town. You're laughing. But they had an experiment back, I think late last year, which they had an actual ignition of a fusion reaction. Now, if you know what's happening, I studied fusion when I was a grad student, and you know, it looks like it's a pretty exciting field, but they always said, well, it's going to be 50 years before they can control fusion, and it's always going to be 50 years. It's never going to do this. So yeah, you heard that. So, but what's happened is that that's not really 50 years anymore, like 10 years now, and I don't know if it's going to recede anymore. It's going to get shorter. What they did in Livermore is they have a little pellet of fusion fuel. You know the difference between fusion and fission, right? Fission is nuclear reactors with uranium and nuclear waste and all that stuff. Fusion is different because fusion, you have these little tiny fuel, and you have to hit it with an enormous amount of energy, and then it'll push back and create more energy than you put into it, hopefully. But the reaction, if you don't put the energy into it, it'll stop. I mean, the fusion stops right away. So there's no risk of a meltdown. There's not a whole lot of nuclear waste. There's some, but not a whole lot of nuclear waste. So in waste, but controlling fusion is just absolutely impossible. They hit that little tiny pellet, really microscopic pellet, with 196 laser beams, high-powered laser beams. It compresses it, and then they hit it with another wave that, once it's compressed, that ignites it, and it creates all this neutrons and heat and blast and energy and stuff like that. Now, the challenges are, how do you do this 10 times a second, which is what you need to do? These neutrons that are being created destroy everything in nearby. So your containment vessel is going to have to be specially created and designed to withstand neutrons attacking it all the time and being replaced out all the time. So there's a lot of challenges still, but I see this happening within 5 or 10 years, and they're going to need all that fusion energy to create the AI transformations that they need to, and all these computer models. So there you go. That's my words.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, any questions?
We're talking about AI. How do you regulate the rogue nations? Cat's out of the bag. How are you going to contain?
Well, one of the things that's okay is that, I mean, in a certain sense, is that it takes an enormous amount of computer power and an enormous amount of data. So you have to have a pretty well-established institution to be able to access that stuff. It's not cheap. China, you know, the interesting thing about China, and I didn't mention this, you know, you think, well, China, I worry about China and AI and their technology and all that. But the thing about China is that their leaders, Xi Jinping and those guys, are incredibly paranoid about AI overtaking their power. So they're tamping down AI in China because of their own fear of losing control of it at the top level. So China, I'm not too worried about them right now. That could change. Rogue nations, no, they just don't have. It'd be like developing an atomic bomb. It takes a heck of a lot of infrastructure, a heck of a lot of resources. Look what it took North Korea, an immense amount of their national wealth to create atomic weapons. And the same thing is true with the AI that would be used to create military hardware or threaten us in other ways. They just don't have the resources to do that, in my opinion. Oh, Bob.
Could you maybe comment a little bit on the thinking behind continuing to offer rebates on electric vehicles? On one hand, like the grids in California and Texas are barely handle the loads that we have. And on the other hand, it's like people forget that electricity comes mostly from coal and natural gas. So I'm just curious what the thinking's, why we're still offering incentives for electric vehicles.
Well, I mean, you can create electricity from renewables, from wind energy, solar. You can do that, and nuclear actually is pretty good for creating a steady stream of energy at predictable rates. I think the worst thing that I worry about is using ethanol, because you got to create, you got to use farmland, you got to use edible foods to create that stuff. And I've been to some of the ethanol folks, and they said, well, we use it all. We create this ethanol, and it's good. 15% of your gasoline may be ethanol, and we use all the other remaining to feed it to the cows or whatever it is. But I still have they got to use a lot of fertilizer to create the corn and the soybeans. So that's the thing that worries me the most. And another thing about EVs, and I might get an EV this next time, is that the materials that go into an electric vehicle, the batteries, they require rare earths, and that's the thing that worries me the most about EVs, rather than the grid. The grid's going to be able to handle it. There's so much new things coming out with the grid. There's these power the transistors that you use in your little computers and all that stuff. They can make power transistors that can switch megawatts of power in microseconds time. So they can build the grids that are going to be able to produce the energy, and they're going to PG&E eventually is going to make our grid safe so we have fires, because there's technologies out there just expensive. So I'm not too worried about the subsidies in those terms that you mentioned as well as the battery technology and the fuels that they might use as alternatives. Thank you.
Jerry, thank you for your service back there, first of all. Would you give us your perspective on the political divide in Congress and how they're not able to get anything done?
Well, it's pretty horrible. That's all I can say. It's not all I can say. It's all that I will say. The worst thing, I think the most grinding thing is the money in election campaigns. As I mentioned, this last redistricting, I lost all of the Bay Area, which was very hurtful. But they put me into a frontline district, which means I'd have to raise $4 or $5 million every 2 years. And that money goes to just bashing people. It goes to say, well, this guy's a scumbag, he has sex with dogs, or whatever it is. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable what you have to raise all this money and then use it in such a negative way. I mean, it's no wonder everybody thinks politicians are scumbags, because that's what you see on TV, and that's what that money is. And it's constant. I mean, every night you would go, meet people, and in the back of your mind, how am I going to get some money out of this person? I mean, that's always on your mind, and it's insidious. And what happens is that the more moderate ideas are drowned out. For example, I think we need, personally, I think we need some way to reduce gun violence. But if you're a Republican and you advocate reducing gun violence, somehow the primary money is going to come in to defeat you in the next election. And the same is true with immigration reform. We need immigration reform of some kind. And if you're in either party and you stick your head out and say, well, geez, we need to do this, then you're gonna get shot down by all the money out there. So the money is preventing us from moving forward on climate change, on all these issues I think are important. The money is preventing our country from moving. The campaign money, I think, is the worst thing that's happening out there.
Amen.
I had a constitutional amendment that I proposed to eliminate the PACs and the dark money, all that stuff. And I got 2 people in Congress to support me on that. So it's just an insidious issue. Something needs to be done about it.
Oliver.
Yeah, Jerry, thank you. So there's, I was always wondering, I mean, I think you're good at good, and I see all the wind turbines like Livermore, Altamont. But there's areas all over California that have so much wind. Why are there no wind turbines really anywhere else?
Well, a couple of reasons. One is you got to have a load. You got to have a grid nearby that can carry the power to the load centers if you have wind turbines. Secondly, people think it's windier than it really is in a lot of places. California has maybe 3 or 4 good wind resource areas. One is Altamont Pass. Solano County has one, San Gorgonio Pass. There's about 4, but all in all, California is not a very good wind resource. Texas, New Mexico, the Dakotas, that's where the real wind resource in this country is. And they have enough wind in one of those Dakota sites. They have wind that's above 20 miles an hour all but 1 or 2 days a year. So that's because the jet streams are sitting overhead and they bring all that wind in. So there's plenty of wind resource in this country, but not so much here in California.
Thank you.
It's off the subject, but what about term limits in the Senate and the House? Wouldn't that take care of a lot of this overextension on the community?
I had mixed feelings about term limits. I mean, you see, when we did term limits in California, what it did is it neutered the elected officials and empowered the lobbyists and the staffers because you're not in. I mean, it takes a long time to develop relationships and seniority in California. Well, in any state, you want to have people who've been in Congress for a long time so they can chair committees and bring resources and answer the state's problems. So I don't think term limits is really the way to go. But if you help, back to campaign finance reform, if you help reduce the amount of money that incumbents can raise compared to challengers, I think that would help new people get elected more frequently.
Mark, last question.
Going back to nuclear energy, it's kind of fascinating to me, but coincidentally, about last year, there was a power plant that went live, based in Georgia. We had that great news out of Morris Livermore fusion. Do you think that news for fusion is going to kind of keep the damper on any efficient advances?
I don't think so. No, fusion's still a good 10 years away. I've been consulting for the fusion company, and they're thinking 2035 maybe when they get their first plant up. So whereas nuclear, it takes a little longer, but they have these new small modular SMR small modular reactors. You can put them on a pickup truck, not a pickup truck, but a semi truck, and drive it to and plug it in at 200 or 300 megawatts. I mean, I think there's a real potential for nuclear, but nuclear waste, we got to get that one under control. And that's not a technical problem, it's a political problem. I mean, the Yucca Mountain in Nevada would be a really great place to put nuclear waste, but Nevada says, nope, we've had enough of your nuclear stuff, United States of America. We don't want any more, and we're not going to take any more, and they're not going to get it. So states like Texas, New Mexico, they're anxious to do nuclear waste. So there's we need a technical solution, and we need to have the resources to make that happen. And then I think nuclear should get to go ahead at that point.
All right, thank you.
All right. If you have any more questions, or you for hire and consulting, you're available afterward.
Right there.
I forgot to bring you a bottle of wine. Or olive oil. Okay, opportunity drawing.
Opportunity drawing. $104 on the table today.
838. 838.
That'd be me. Oh, you got it. Oh,
Bill.
Okay.
And if he doesn't
Get the
win,
red one up.
then it's 8-4-6.
Oh.
8-4-6.
8-4-6.
8-4-6, Julio. All right, thank you all for coming. Do good, have fun, and unless Julio wins, we're out of here. Thank you all for coming.